radio relay. So he stopped halfway. Burroughs and Peniston proceeded, parked the Jeep, and went into the forest. And they approached an object. I'm kind of shortening this down a little bit. The object apparently moved more than once. It was behind them once, and once. They actually got up to the object, according to them. Peniston had a 35mm camera with him, which was customary to carry. The third response team always carried a camera because we had problems with British nationals coming over the fence. We like to document, take a picture if they're in there. And normally what happened is they turned over to the British police and whisked away and told don't come back. But he took a full roll of film or more of this object, triangular, about 6 or 8 feet in length, multiple lights, smooth glass-like black finish, and had like hieroglyphics. He pulled out his notebook and he took notes and made sketches of all the different impressions he saw on the object. Many of you have probably seen this in some of the books and things. There was 45 minutes that can't be accounted for of his time. We know that because Central Security Control repeatedly tried to call him and kicked everybody else off the air and kept the airwaves open. And he was gone for 45 minutes as far as they know. He does not remember anything, although he's undergone regression hypnosis and there's some mixed results on that. Then the object apparently levitated and disappeared at high speed. They came back to the base. Of course, everybody's in a quandary and rumors went crazy. Nobody knew quite what to do. They pretty much dismissed it. This flight chief did call them in, talk to them, and everybody sort of, not me, I don't want to be involved. We wish you hadn't heard about this. I came in early the next morning, which wasn't unusual, to the desk. That's where the law enforcement desk sergeant was, to collect the police blotters, the activity of the 24 hours. I did that about once or twice a week just to save them a trip up and to see what was going on. And the desk sergeant at the time, Sergeant Crash McCabe, started laughing when I walked in. I said, what's so funny? He said, well, Burroughs and Peniston and Cabana have been out in the woods chasing UFOs all night. And the lieutenant said, don't put anything in the police blotter. I said, oh, come on. What did they see? Well, I know they saw lights. I said, well, put they saw lights or something in there. Put something in there. Document the times and what happened just in case we have to refer back to it. So he said, okay. He typed up the blotter, and his flight chief came in and signed it, and I collected and took him up to the office. Well, we had a senior staff meeting that morning. We all kind of had a chuckle. We thought, well, there's something behind this probably, but and I got asked, is Peniston reliable? Burroughs? I said, yeah, decent cops. In fact, Peniston was a very, very good cop, very reliable. He was one of the people that selected to work in the command post during exercises. Not too much more was thought about it, except we realized that the cops were just going crazy over this. A night and a half, 2 nights later, I guess the 28th, we had the Combat Support Group, which was the base, annual awards dinner. It was a cover dish dinner. Wives were invited. We presented awards and recognized people for various activities during the year. It was really our Christmas party too, but we hadn't booked it earlier enough, so we had to have it after Christmas. One of those things. There were limited facilities, I guess. So we're in the Christmas party, and we just finished dinner and get ready for the dessert and the awards. And in came Bruce England. Bruce England was a former Marine. He was the flight commander. Very mature young man. He was white as a sheet. And he came to the base commander and I said, we've got to talk privately in his faculty. We looked at each other. So the only private place is in the coat room. So we went into the coat room and he said, the UFO's back. What did you see, Bruce? Well, there's some lights back out there again. I said, what are you doing out there, Bruce? You don't belong. Then I was really getting concerned because we're going to get an issue with the British stumbling around in their forest. It's equivalent to National Forest. So Conrad and I looked at each other and he said, well, I'm going to do the awards. Why don't you go change clothes? And I had a suit on. He said, well, I can put this thing to rest. Let's get it behind us. So I cornered the disaster preparedness officer and he said, who's your standby person? He said, I forgot his name now, but anyhow, I knew he was a photographer. I said, have him go down to the office and pick up an APN-27. That's a military version. I wanted to take one along and a camera to document there was nothing there. Because I knew if I come back and said, well, did you check for radiation? We could say, yeah, nothing there. So I also took my small pocket recorder, something a little smaller than this, a little linear, which I carried everywhere I went to get it along. That's the source of the infamous tape. I went home and changed clothes. They came by and picked me up on a Jeep. We went across the base and out the back of Woodbridge, out into the forest. Lo and behold, there must be 30 or 40 cops out there, 3 or 4 light-alls, half a dozen vehicles. I was furious. What are we doing out here with this armada in the middle of the night in the British forest? So everybody wanted to get involved. I said, nope, just Bobby Ball, Master Sergeant Ball, Lieutenant England, and 2 or 3 others. We're going to go forward. The rest of you stay back here and be quiet. So we went up and approached this site where supposedly an object had landed. They showed me 3 indentations in the ground that were equal distance apart. And I'm sure many of you have heard this story, but indentations about this deep, and I have one of the plaster casts here to show you if you'd like to see one here in a few minutes. And we're taking readings with the Geiger counter and measuring the distance between the depressions. They were definitely equal distance apart. The ground was hotter in the center of the triangle, and the area around was colder the further out you went. Now, we're not talking significant radiation. We're talking, when I'm told, about 10 times background radiation, something you could safely be with for quite a long time. Keep in mind, this is 2 nights later. While we're doing this, I'm looking at rub marks on the trees, the branches knocked off in the overhead trees. Suddenly somebody says, I think it was Bruce saying, look over there. And we look out and we see something glowing. We keep looking at it, we're watching it and watching it. And suddenly, it's red. It appears to be about, this about big beach ball size, maybe a little larger, out in the farmer's field, between us and the farmer's house. It moves into the forest. It moves through the trees. Now keep in mind, these are dwarf pine trees, most of them about this big, and they're fairly tightly packed in there. I mean, you can walk between them. They're 4, 5, 6, 8 feet between them. Not something you could maneuver a big object through easily, anyhow. And we try and approach the object. It's bobbing through the trees, back and forth. It goes back out into the farmer's field. I'm watching it, and I can see the glow flicker like a fire off the farmer's windows. And I was very concerned for anybody that would be in that farmhouse. I thought, wow, I'm glad I'm not in there. I wonder if those people are all right. So the object's directly between us and the farmhouse. Keep that in mind, because I'm going to show you some pictures a little later. We watch it probably maybe a minute, 2 minutes. It appears like an eye. There's a dark center, and it appears the eye sort of blinks a little bit occasionally. And there's like molten metal dripping off it. That's the only way I can describe it. Something's dripping off it. And suddenly, without any notice, it silently explodes into multiple white objects and disappears. Whoa. Really concerned. Well, what is it? What have we seen? I said, all lightning? I don't know. So let's go out in the field and see if we can find any evidence, because something was dripping off it. Let's see if we can find any burn marks or anything on the ground out there, any traces of anything. And we went out, and we're out there with our flashlights looking all around, and all we found is evidence that the cattle had been there. And while we're standing out there, somebody says, one of them, I don't remember whose, look up there. There are elliptical-shaped objects to the north in the sky. So I get on the radio and call the command post and say, call Eastern Radar. Eastern Radar had air defense for our sector. It was a British operation. And here's where I wanted to look and see if they see anything. And they're back and forth and trying to figure out what's going on. And the tires trying to pick up stuff on their radar. And then we see objects to the south, several to the south. One of them to the south approaches us at very high speed. I'm guessing 2,000 or 3,000 feet. It comes in very, very, very fast. All we can see is light. It stops overhead and it sends a beam down. At that time, I didn't think too much about lasers, but that's what I equate it to now. A spot about that big on the ground, just off to the side of us. We're all thinking, is this a weapon? Is this a warning? Is this communication? What is it? Is it trying to do a recon on us? We really didn't know. We were extremely concerned, and just as suddenly as it came on, click, going off, gone. Whoa, what was that? The object to the north continued to dance around in the sky, and the best way I can describe it is it appeared they were doing a grid search, the way they were making sharp angular movements. I mentioned earlier the one to the south. The other one to the south appeared to send down beams of some type similar to what we saw into a weapons storage area. Now that's been disputed, I know, and there's different stories. I'm going to read you a couple of emails that I got from air traffic controllers that didn't see anything that night. So we were out there with them probably till, I'm guessing, from about midnight or somewhere around here till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We did traipse across the farmer's field. We couldn't see the lighthouse. We all fell in a small creek because we didn't see it. We were wet. It was about 32, 33 degrees. The wind was blowing. We were cold, miserable. We went back to the base. The whole way back, I'm thinking, how am I ever going to explain this? This is the end of my career. There's no way I could say I didn't see anything. Too many people were out there. So I took the tape, went into the office the next morning. It was a holiday. It was a Christmas vacation. And lo and behold, I ran into Gordon Williams, who was the wing commander. We shared a common building. We had a hallway in the front, and our office was on one side.